Harry Potter story from another's perspective. Rowan Barrows and the Forgotten Prophecy, Chapter 11, The Mirror. The castle had never buzzed like this before. Every corridor Rowan passed seemed to hum with excitement. Banners were draped from the upper windows, scarves of scarlet and green hung from staircase banisters, and even the ghosts were picking sides. The bloody Baron floated moodily through the corridors, muttering about superior Slytherin skill, while the fat friar cheered fair play every time someone mentioned Gryffindor. First match of the season, Ollie said, for what must have been the 10th time that morning, bouncing on his heels as they made their way toward the Great Hall for breakfast. Can you believe it? Gryffindor versus Slytherin. It's going to be brutal, Rowan grinned. Brutal's one word for it. Half the school looks ready for battle. Cedric was already at the Hufflepuff table, already halfway through his breakfast. Betting's even, he told them as they sat down. Rowan slid onto the bench, glancing across the hall toward the other house tables. Cedric had clearly been watching the chatter already. Cedric seemed to enjoy Quidditch just as much as Rowan did. "So who's the best team?" Rowan asked. Cedric shrugged, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "Slytherin," he said. "They've won the cup the last couple of years. I'm looking forward to seeing them play. Gives me a good idea of what to expect." Rowan frowned slightly. "What do you mean, what to expect?" Cedric gave a small grin. "I tried out this year," he said. "Got a chaser position after one of the older students left." Rowan blinked. "You're on the team?" "Yeah," Cedric said, a little sheepishly. "Was hoping for Seeker, but apparently I'm too bulky." Ollie leaned in at once. "Didn't know we were sitting with a celebrity," he said. "Should we be asking for autographs now or later?" Cedric laughed. "Hardly." He nodded toward the Gryffindor table. "Still, I want to see what Gryffindor's new secret weapon is like. If they've got something special this year, I'd rather know before we face them." Rowan frowned, reaching for the pumpkin juice. "Secret weapon?" Cedric's grin widened. "Didn't you hear? They've got a first year on the team, a seeker." Rowan nearly choked on his drink. "A first year?" Ollie blinked. "That can't be right. First years aren't allowed on house teams," Cedric shrugged, looking far too amused. "Apparently Professor McGonagall made an exception. It's Potter. You know, Harry Potter." Rowan felt something sharp twist in his chest. "That's not fair," he said before he could stop himself. "We're not even allowed to try out." Ollie gave him a sympathetic grin. "Don't take it personally, mate. He's probably just that good." Cedric chuckled. "We'll see. Talent's one thing. Keeping your head when the Slytherin beaters are aiming for your nose is another." The hall echoed with chatter and clinking plates, but Rowan hardly heard it. He couldn't help thinking of the battered maroon and blue kit folded in his trunk at home, of his father cheering from the stands in Thistlebrook. He'd spent whole weekends practicing dives and loops, dreaming of the day he'd fly for his house team, and now famous Harry Potter, of all people, was living it. "Come on," Cedric said, tossing his roll aside. "Let's grab good seats. You don't want to be stuck behind anyone." The walk down to the Quidditch pitch was like being swept along by a living river of colour and noise. Hundreds of students poured out of the castle, scarves whipping in the brisk November wind, banners fluttering above their heads. Someone had enchanted their Gryffindor flag to roar like a lion every few seconds, while the Slytherin's banners hissed faintly, as though mocking them. The air smelled of damp grass, excitement, and roasted chestnuts, the sound of 100 people too thrilled to sit still. The half-giant Hagrid stood near the gates, his enormous frame wrapped in a moleskin coat, waving the younger students along. "Mind the steps there. Keep moving, you lot." Rowan, Ollie and Cedric found seats midway up the stands, squeezed between a pair of Cedric's friends, Hufflepuff third years locked in a heated argument about broomstick models. From up here, the pitch stretched far below them like a vast emerald bowl, its grass trimmed so perfectly it almost seemed to shimmer in the morning light. At either end, 3 towering golden hoops rose into the air, gleaming faintly against the pale sky. The stands curved all the way around, already filling with students wrapped in house colours, flashes of yellow, red, blue and green rippling like banners in the breeze. The low hum of voices rolled across the stadium, rising and falling in waves as more people took their seats. The wind tugged at Rowan's robes, carrying with it the scent of fresh grass and something colder. High above, the sky stretched wide and pale, thin clouds drifting slowly past as if even they were pausing to watch. Rowan leaned forward slightly, gripping the edge of the bench. "Just wait till the bludgers are flying," Cedric said, grinning. "Then you'll see why Madam Hooch keeps a stretcher handy." Ollie looked around in awe. "Do you think the professors bet on games? Because I'd pay to see Professor Sprout trash-talk Snape." Cedric laughed, but before he could answer, the crowd's noise rose to a deafening roar. A flash of scarlet streaked from the locker room, the Gryffindor team emerging in formation, and moments later, a trail of green followed. "Here they come," shouted a voice above the noise. A student commentator, Lee Jordan's amplified voice boomed across the pitch. "And here come the players, Angelina Johnson, Alicia Spinnet, and Katie Bell, the Gryffindor Chasers, followed by the new seeker, first-year Harry Potter." The name sent ripples through the crowd. Students craned for a better look as Harry Potter shot into the air, scarlet robes snapping behind him. Rowan squinted, trying to find him among the blur of motion. "He's really tiny," he muttered. "They'll blow him right off that broom." The whistle blew. 14 brooms shot skyward at once, kicking up a rush of wind that rippled through the stands. Robes snapped, voices rose, and the match burst into life in a blur of motion, streaks of red and green weaving through the cold morning air. The quaffle was in play within seconds. A Gryffindor chaser broke free of the pack, darting cleanly between 2 Slytherin players before launching the ball straight through the left hoop. The Gryffindor stands erupted. "Nice!" Cedric shouted, already on his feet. Rowan leaned forward, gripping the edge of the bench. From up here, everything felt faster, sharper. The players didn't just fly, they moved like they belonged in the air, dipping and turning in ways that made his stomach twist just watching. The game surged on. Slytherin came back harder. Faster passes, sharper turns, rougher play. A bludger whistled past one of the chasers, missing her by inches as she ducked low, and the crowd gasped. Rowan winced. This wasn't like flying back home. Marcus Flint broke through the chaos. He wasn't chasing the quaffle. He was heading straight for Potter. Rowan frowned. Watch out. Too late. Flint slammed into him. He lurched sideways, his broom jolting violently as he struggled to stay upright. A roar went up from the Slytherin stands. Half cheers, half laughter. Potter steadied himself. Barely. And still. The crowd cheered. Louder than before. Rowan's gaze drifted upward again. Harry Potter hovered higher than the rest, circling slowly. Watching. Waiting. He didn't look like the others. Not as smooth. Not as natural. There was hesitation in the way he moved. The stiffness in how tightly he held the broom. Rowan frowned. Rowan wasn't convinced he was even that good. Not compared to the chasers who flew like they'd been born doing it. And yet, every time he dipped, the crowd reacted. Every turn drawing louder cheers. The match didn't slow, it sharpened. And then, something changed. Potter's broom jerked beneath him. Not a wobble, a jolt. Rowan leaned forward. Did you see that? Ollie squinted. He just lost control, didn't he? Rowan didn't answer, because Potter hadn't steadied. The broom dipped again, harder this time, as though something had yanked it downward. A ripple moved through the crowd. Confusion. Why isn't he fixing it? Rowan muttered. Cedric had gone still beside him. That's not normal. Potter's broom bucked violently. He slid sideways, one hand slipping free before he caught himself again. Gasps spread through the stands. Some students were already on their feet. Rowan's chest tightened. And still, the match continued. Rowan tore his eyes away for just a second. Slytherin had the quaffle. Flint tore across the pitch completely unchallenged. Wait. No one was marking him. No one was even watching. Flint scored. Then again. And again. Each goal came faster than the last, cutting cleanly through a distracted defence. The scoreboard shifted. Slytherin were pulling ahead. By a lot. "They're not even watching the game," Rowan said, frowning. Cedric didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on Harry. 5 goals, just like that, and still, no one seemed to care. Rowan looked back up. Harry was still fighting his broom. For a moment, a sharp thought flickered through him. He's going to fall. And then it stopped. Potter's broom steadied, as suddenly as it had started. Rowan blinked. What? Before anyone could react, Potter moved. He shot forward, faster than he had all match, leaning low over his broom. A flash of gold darted ahead. The snitch. The entire stadium seemed to tilt as Potter dived. Down! Faster! The ground rushed up beneath him. He's going to crash! At the last second, Harry pulled up. Too late to stop properly. He hit the ground hard, tumbling forward onto his hands and knees. A gasp swept through the stands. For a moment he didn't move. Rowan felt his breath catch. Then Harry coughed. Something small and golden fell into his hand. The golden snitch. Silence. Then the stadium exploded. Rowan just sat there staring at the pitch as Ollie jumped to his feet beside him. "Did you see that?" Ollie shouted. "Caught it in his mouth. That's insane." Rowan didn't answer straight away. His hands were buried in his pockets, fingers tightening slightly against the fabric. "Yeah," he said after a moment. Cedric let out a short laugh, still watching the pitch. "Not the cleanest catch I've ever seen, but it got the job done." Ollie shook his head in disbelief. First year, though. Imagine that. Rowan's gaze drifted back to the centre of the pitch, where Harry was being swarmed by cheering teammates. "Guess it worked out for him," he said quietly. Cedric glanced at him. "Sometimes the rules bend for the right person, I suppose." The Hufflepuff common room was a world away from the noise echoing through the castle above. Gryffindor Tower could probably be heard all the way to Hogsmeade that night. Chants, cheers, someone banking pots together. But down in the cosy, barrel-shaped warmth of the basement, the mood was quieter, comfortable, familiar. A fire crackled in the round hearth, casting golden light over shelves of plants and hanging herbs. The scent of fresh bread drifted faintly from the kitchens beyond the corridor. Someone had transfigured a pile of cushions into a mock broomstick goalpost, and a few third years were half-heartedly reenacting the final moment of the match. Rowan slumped into an armchair near the fire, still half in his coat. Ollie dropped into the seat opposite, grinning from ear to ear. "I still can't believe he caught it in his mouth. That's either genius or madness." "Or luck," Rowan muttered, watching a spark leap up from the firewood. Ernie Macmillan was sprawled on the rug with Justin Finch-Fletchley, both leaning over a Gobston's board. A foul-smelling puff erupted from one of the stones, and Justin coughed violently. "Ha! Got you again," said Ernie with a triumphant grin. "That's revolting," Justin spluttered. "You've got to stop using that extra slimy gobstone." Across the room, the strange girl. Margot sat cross-legged on the window seat, book open on her knees. The light from the fire flickered over her page. Her quill moved fast, scratching faintly. Ollie, noticing her for the first time, called out, "What did you think of the match then, weird girl? Bit of excitement for once, eh?" Without looking up, she said flatly, "Quidditch is just people chasing balls they'll never keep." Ernie snorted. Spoken like a true Ravenclaw. "I'm a Hufflepuff," the girl said mildly, eyes fixed on her book. "I just have priorities." Ollie grinned. "Right, priorities. Like not getting fresh air or exercise." She finally looked up, her dark eyes gleaming with amusement. "Like not watching boys nearly fall off broomsticks because they think fame makes them better at flying." Rowan's stomach twisted slightly. He looked down at the floor. "Yeah," he said under his breath. "Exactly that." Ollie, oblivious to Rowan's tone, stretched and said, "Still, you've got to admit, catching the snitch like that, mental stuff." "Mental's one word," Margot murmured. The fire popped, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney. The sound of laughter drifted faintly from the upper floors of the castle, Gryffindor still celebrating. Rowan leaned back in his chair, staring at the fire. "He's our age," he said quietly, as though he hadn't meant to say it aloud. "First year, and he's already on the team." Ollie shrugged. "Yeah, but you're better looking," he said in that sarcastic tone of his. That earned a snort from Ernie, who quickly ducked his head again, avoiding a foul-smelling gobstone. For a while, they just sat there, the low chatter of the common room around them, the flicker of candlelight on the stone walls, the smell of toasting marshmallows from someone experimenting near the fire. It was cosy, safe. But somewhere inside Rowan's chest, something restless stirred. The kind of feeling that didn't quite belong in such a peaceful place. He stayed long after the others drifted upstairs, watching the fire die down to glowing embers. Ollie had fallen asleep mid-sentence on the sofa, and Margot had disappeared, book under her arm. When at last the common room was empty, Rowan stood, his reflection flickering faintly in the window glass, tired eyes, ruffled hair. And before he even realised what he was doing, he slipped out through the barrel door into the silent corridors beyond. The castle was different at night. Rowan had learned that quickly, the way it held its breath after curfew, the way every sound seemed louder, sharper, as though the walls themselves were listening. He walked slowly, shoes scuffing softly against the cold stone floor, his shadow stretching long in the torchlight. He didn't know why he'd left the common room. He told himself he just needed air. But that wasn't quite it. Maybe he just couldn't sit there anymore, surrounded by laughter and warmth, thinking about how easily some people, some boys, were already making Hogwarts look while he was just another face in the crowd. He kept walking, past the kitchens, past the suits of armour that muttered in their sleep, past a portrait of an old wizard who snored so loudly Rowan had to stifle a laugh. He had no plan, only that restless hum in his chest that wouldn't go away. Then he heard it. It was that voice again, heart thumping. For a moment he thought he was dreaming, moonlight pooling faintly on the stone floor. Then he heard it, soft, far away, but there, a whisper, familiar, calling. The whisper grew clearer. Rowan couldn't understand the words. They weren't quite words at all this time, but they seemed to want something from him, like a secret begging to be found. He turned a corner, then another. The torches burned lower here, their light guttering against the stone. He didn't recognise this corridor at all. It looked abandoned, forgotten, the kind of place Hogwarts liked to hide when no one was looking. The whisper trembled again, closer now, just behind a heavy oak door. Rowan hesitated only a second before pushing it open. The hinges gave a long, aching groan, and dust drifted up like smoke. Inside was a classroom, or had been once. Desks stacked against the walls, cobwebs veiling the ceiling, the air thick with age. His breath clouded faintly in front of him. He took one careful step inside. The whisper stopped. The silence that followed was heavy, so heavy it made his ears ring. Then something caught the light. A mirror. It was enormous, taller than any person Rowan had ever seen, its golden frame carved with curling letters he couldn't quite read. The glass shimmered faintly in the torchlight, like ripples on still water. Rowan stepped closer. His reflection stepped too. For a heartbeat, Rowan thought he was just seeing himself. Same light brown curls, same sun-warmed skin, the faint smudge of dirt still on his cheek from gobstones earlier. Then his breath caught. Something wasn't right. The longer he looked, the more the reflection seemed to shift, not changing all at once, but subtly, like settling into place. His posture straightened, his expression sharpened, and suddenly, the boy in the mirror didn't just look like him anymore. He looked like someone else. The longer Rowan looked into the mirror, the more he started to look like the boy who lived, Harry Potter. Not entirely, but close enough. The boy in the mirror stood taller, more certain. A lightning-shaped scar marked his forehead, and thin glasses framed his eyes. His robes were different too, richer somehow, and on his chest gleamed a scarlet crest, Gryffindor. Rowan's chest tightened. He moved. The reflection moved with him. For a second, Rowan panicked, patting his face, checking. No glasses, no scar, still himself. But the mirror disagreed. Then others appeared behind him. Not with a sound, just there. His father stood tall, a hand resting proudly on the boy's shoulder. His mother laughed, not the tired, distant version Rowan remembered, but something warm and full like sunlight breaking through clouds. Eleanor stood beside them, strong again, whole, and the boy in front of them, the boy who lived, Harry Potter, didn't look uncertain at all. He looked like someone who had already found his place. Rowan stared. He couldn't look away. A strange thought crept in. That isn't me. He lifted a hand again. The reflection did the same. For a moment it felt like the glass might give way, like if he just leaned forward, he could step into it, become it. A voice behind him broke the spell. Beautiful, isn't it? Rowan jumped so hard he nearly fell backward. Professor Dumbledore was standing by the doorway, calm as moonlight, his half-moon glasses glinting faintly. Professor, I was... Dumbledore raised a hand gently. No need to explain, Mr. Barrows. Hogwarts has a way of guiding those who need to be found. Exploring, said Dumbledore mildly. A most useful habit in a school full of secrets, though it can be rather surprising what one finds. Rowan turned back to the mirror. His reflection was just him again, small, nervous, dusty. What is it? He asked quietly. Dumbledore came to stand beside him, hands clasped behind his back. The mirror of Erised, he said. It shows us not our face, but our heart's deepest desire. He looked thoughtfully at Rowan, who was still staring at the reflection. What we see in this mirror isn't always what we want, but what we wish had been. The version of the world our hearts whisper for when no one's listening. Rowan frowned faintly. So it's a dream. A dream caught in glass, Dumbledore said softly, but dangerous if you mistake it for a window instead of a reflection. The words sank into the still air between them. Rowan tore his gaze away from the mirror at last. Then why keep it here, if it's dangerous? Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. Because even dangerous things can teach us if we listen in the right way. He smiled faintly. You, I think, are a listener. He paused. And because every year there is always someone who needs to find it. You're not the only one this time, nor I suspect will you be the last. Rowan didn't quite know what to say to that. Rowan blinked, unsure if the warmth that spread through him was comfort or unease. Go on now, Dumbledore said softly. Back to bed. He turned to leave, candlelight glinting in the lenses of his spectacles, then paused once more in the doorway. Professor, Rowan said. What do you see in the mirror? Dumbledore paused before answering. A lifetime supply of sherbet lemons, he said thoughtfully. Though I suspect I'd tire of them long before they ran out. Dumbledore turned and left. Rowan stood there long after Dumbledore's footsteps had faded, trying to figure out if Dumbledore had been truthful or not. The silence in the room felt heavier now, like it had settled on his shoulders. The mirror loomed before him, quiet and blank. The glow that had once filled it gone, leaving only the reflection of a boy who looked smaller than he had a moment ago. He turned away, the echo of Dumbledore's words lingering in his ears, and slipped quietly out into the corridor. The torches burned low along the walls, their flames whispering softly as he passed. When he reached the common room, the fire was still burning, though the room was empty. He sat down for a moment, staring into the embers, thinking of reflections and voices, and the strange way both could make him feel seen and unseen all at once. Then he climbed into bed, the castle's distant hum steadying his thoughts. Sleep came slowly, and when it did, it brought no dreams, only quiet.